Probably the most important piece of news, which has flown under the radar, is the fact that Meta, so Mark Zuckerberg's company that owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, etc., they have indicated that they're going to close their models. So they won't be open source anymore. They're going to close off their models, not make them publicly available. That's probably the biggest, not very exciting, but probably the biggest movement in artificial intelligence, because it means the West has basically said China is doing open source and the West is doing closed source, and that's it. So we've just seen a complete split, a bifurcation in how we're building artificial intelligence models, because most of the top, all of the top Chinese models are open source. So DeepSeek, Quen, Minimax, and the others, they're all open source, whereas the only one that was left in the West was Llama and Mistral, I guess, to a certain extent. But Llama and Meta have said, nope, we're not doing open source anymore, or they've indicated they're not going to be open source. So I think that's probably the biggest piece of news, but it's quite quiet and subtle. And I don't think the ramifications of that have been realized yet. Ed Endry says, will China win the AI battle? Whew, that's a big question. So it is a two-horse race now. It is between the United States, specifically Silicon Valley, and China, and that's it. So the EU has removed itself. The UK removed itself a while ago. I've actually just read an article about Demis Hassabis, who is the head of Google DeepMind, who is a homegrown British AI genius, but that was purchased by Google. So DeepMind was purchased by Google. So basically, America vacuums up any Western talent because they have the money. So the only other horse in the race right now is China. China are going a very different way. As I mentioned before, all of their models pretty much are open source. They are releasing their models. I talked on Friday, I think it was, about why this is. They're playing the longer game. So if you know anything about Chinese history, I studied Chinese history at uni. I've lived in China. I speak decent Mandarin. If you think about Chinese history, everything's much longer timescales. In the West, we tend to think in the next couple of years, the next 4 years generally, because that's how long our presidents or our prime ministers tend to be around. And we're not very good at looking beyond that. So Chinese history is very much longer time spans, and means projects can be put in place like the Great Green Wall of China, which is reforesting, or not even reforesting, just growing huge amounts of trees. Was started back in, I think, the 70s, and they're still doing it now. Projects go over decades rather than, oh, what can we build in the next year or two? So I think because of this, and because of the fact that AI is a long-term global technological shift, I think China's in a really good position right now. What they're doing with their open models is smart, because the Western models, so OpenAI, XAI, Microsoft, Microsoft, Google, Anthropic, etc., they're all driven by profit. Yes, OpenAI is a capped for profit, but still, they need to make money. They're backed by venture capitalists, they're backed by investors, and they need to make cash. The Chinese models, on the other hand, they've got government support. So every large tech company in China has a wedge of equity that is owned by the government. So that's just part of operating. You must have some form of government equity in there. And the money has a much longer horizon to pay back. So I think that puts them in a really good position, because the American companies need to continuously release stuff. They need to continuously wow investors, need to continuously outperform each other in order to stay relevant. And that's why we see OpenAI dropping things like the study mode last week, just to stay in the news cycle, to constantly be top of mind as the forefront of AI. The Chinese companies don't need to worry about that as much. They can just continue chugging along and making good models and releasing them open source. So in America, everything, you have to pay for it. It's a closed source model. So if you want to access the API, you're going to pay. The Chinese models are free. They are open source. You can download it onto a local computer, or more realistically onto a server, and run the model from there. That is going to be really important in the rest of the world. So we tend to think of America and Europe. Probably most of the people watching this are from those areas. So that's what we see, that's what we think of. The rest of the world needs models. We're talking about South America, we're talking about Africa, we're talking about the rest of Asia as well. They will more likely go towards the Chinese models because they are open source. And so I think the play for China here is you get the models as the basis, the platform that people build upon, and then later down the line you can monetize. So in the same way that Android, for example, is a platform, Google released Android for free, doesn't cost anything, and then device creators like Samsung started to put Android operating systems onto their devices. And then later down the line, Google can monetize that. They can turn Android into a product. So products that are purchased through the Google Play Store, for example, Google then takes a cut. So I think the Chinese companies on the whole are following that platform play. You get it out as many places as possible so that people start to build with it. And then later on down the line, you can monetize it through consultancy services, through hosting. So Alibaba, Tencent, etc., have cloud hosts. So that's going to be a lot easier to do, and just other ways to monetize, which are not just charging people up front. So I think that's a long play and it's a smart play, and we'll have to see how it pans out. It's also good for China's brand. So China uses soft power to push its brand. Yeah, I mean, it's power basically globally. So that's why they're in African nations right now, building roads, building schools, building infrastructure, which Western colonizers never did. They were terrible there. China at least is going in there, building infrastructure, and then at the same time claiming mining rights. It's a very soft and subtle way to build power. And giving artificial intelligence away as open source models is part of that as well. It's a cultural and a brand move as well. So I think over the long run, it may be more sustainable because Silicon Valley will overinvest and we will see a correction, as we always do with all of these things. We'll probably have another dot-com boom, hopefully not, sorry, dot-com bust, hopefully not as large as back in 2001, but we will see a correction because right now, any business with every business have to basically tack AI, artificial intelligence, onto their name or into their description to make money, to raise any amount of cash, which means stupid money is being spent right now, and there will be a correction. And China will probably avoid that and just keep chugging along and keep building. But we'll see. It's a big question. Who will win depends on who gets to AGI first as well. Can you go over the important settings to keep your info private from feeding AI and generally? So very basically, if you're using ChatGPT, there is a toggle. They hide it away. I'm going to pull it up because they hide it. They're very cheeky. So if you go into ChatGPT, you go to your account, you go to settings, you go to data controls, and then there is a toggle called improve the model for everyone. So this is what you need to turn off. Improve your model for everyone. Allow your content to be used to train our models, which makes ChatGPT better for you and everyone who uses it. We take steps to protect your privacy. So you can turn that off. So they've couched it in language which makes you not want to turn it off because you're mean if you turn it off and you don't want it to be better for yourself and other people. But that is basically, can we use your information to train our models? They've hidden it away in the settings and they've called it improve the model for everyone. Turn that off, and that means that theoretically your information is not used to train the model. However, we're not sure how much we can trust that. So right now, the New York Times is suing ChatGPT and saying, we want you to keep record of every single thing that is kept on, that is sent to and sent out of ChatGPT. We do not know if OpenAI are doing that. Most people say no, because the amount of information would just be too huge. It would require much, like the data centers required to store all of that information in its raw form are, it just wouldn't be feasible. But we don't know. So OpenAI is a relatively new company. We give away so much of our information to Google and Microsoft and these kind of companies because they've been around for so long. We implicitly trust that they're not going to mess it up, despite the fact that they do have data leaks. Whereas with OpenAI, we don't know. We really don't know. We know they've been shifty with their training. So they're a little bit lax on, I would say, data controls and data honoring data. So there were things like Mira Murati, who was the CTO of OpenAI. She was asked in an interview, did you scrape YouTube to train ChatGPT? And the meme is just her face. She pulls this silly face because she can't lie, because if she lies publicly on video, they're in trouble. But she also couldn't admit it. So she didn't say anything. She just pulled a face and it's okay. Yes, you did, but they're trying to remain non-culpable. So they have been shifty with data in the past. I don't think there's no two ways around that. So what they're doing with our data, we don't 100% know. But what you can do for now is you toggle off, improve the model for everyone. If you are genuinely worried about what these companies are doing with your data, deploy a local model. So this is what I was just talking about with China, you can get an open source model. You can download it onto your computer and, well, onto your computer or onto a server, and you can run that model yourself. And it has no connection back to the people who created it. It doesn't go back and forward. Instead, you are talking directly to your model, and the connection is just between you and your server, so it becomes private. So a lot of enterprises are doing this because it allows them to have that data security, because they know their information is not going back and forward to OpenAI. So to do this, if you wanted a Western model, it would probably be Llama. There are other ones out there, but it's probably going to be Llama or Mistral. If you don't care if it's Chinese or Western, then probably DeepSeek or ZAI, what's it called? Let me put it up. So the top one right now is DeepSeek, followed by Qwen 3, also Chinese. It's by Alibaba, followed by Exa1. I haven't used that. Oh, it's a Llama-based one, which is Meta, but it's released from LG, so Korean, followed by Nematron Super 49B version 1.5, great name, from NVIDIA. Then Alibaba's Qwen 3, Minimax M1, that's Chinese, etc. Oh, GLM 4.5, that's the new one from Z.ai. Is okay, it's about number 10 now. But you can go and download one of these models and deploy it locally. And that's going to allow you to be totally secure in your data. It requires a few steps. If you want to learn how, I would literally go to ChatGPT and say, hey, how do I deploy one of these models? It's not that hard, and there are lots of tools that help you do it very quickly. I basically do it for you, like one-click installs. So that is the ultimate way to get security. Obviously, there are going to be costs to running that yourself. You need to rent a server generally, but you do get that security.